patchwork version.
Yeah, they stick some patches into it, you know, take out the soldering iron, like quickly try and fix it. Doesn't really work. They sort of slowly lose, and then they get smashed in Game 3. So that's been the Samsung way this season.
But I think that's kind of like heartwarming if you're a fan, because like, all right, you see something every time. You're like, all right, this part over here is pretty good. Maybe next time, and we're still waiting for that big triumphant victory, but cathartic will be what it is when it comes.
Yeah, that's dangerous, though, Papa Smithy. That's how CLG's fans have felt for years.
CJ Entis probably as well.
No, Papa. CJ at least won tournaments at one point. It's very different.
A while ago.
It's very different.
Okay, that's fair. So bans have come through. Anarchy first banning Hecarim, despite being a team that prioritizes the Hecarim, but both these teams, Ixu, QV, even when CV Max is playing, love that Hecarim.
Yeah, QV very dangerous on that Hecarim pickup, and Gragas will be denied from Lyra. That is no surprise at all. Cassiopeia not going to be picked up by Crowd. Now, that's not a champion that we've seen really Mickey play.
What's your take on Luna coming back into the lineup? Because when we spoke off-air, you thought Wraith was maybe the best laning choice.
I didn't think that. That's what I heard from Samsung.
Okay, that's kind of the popular opinion. Luna in general really impressed me. The Bard in particular was something new. He seems like not necessarily a direct upgrade, but at least competitive. I guess we need more information to really work out what's the best fit for Samsung. They looked good with Wraith, especially in the 2v2, but can Luna give them maybe the team fight or just the innovation that the Bard pick maybe alluded to?
Yeah, and what Samsung was saying is that Wraith they feel is better with Fury's aggression in the laning phase, whereas Luna tends to be a bit more reserved in laning, but I think Luna has a lot of... What I saw from Luna was good reads on the map, ability to see things in the future, to make plays in advance, and to predict very accurately what was going on in a way that Wraith doesn't.
So I have a dream, and that is to see Mickey play Echo. Echo's available. He's an assassin player.
It's a good dream. I like your dream.
That could be something we could see this series. Echo's made it through the picks and bans. Mickey's definitely the assassin player that we kind of said Easy Hoon was never going to opt into the Echo. I don't know if you really need to commit to as a first pick, but Samsung have shown they're very quick on picking up new things. So there's no way to know whether they've actually practiced that champion.
Oh, look at this. Actually swapping out for the Maokai from the Rek'Sai at the last second.
Gragas banned, so Rek'Sai would have been definitely the strongest early presence jungler.
That is surprising to me, Papa Smithy, that we would see Lyra move away from that, because a lot of Anarchy's success comes out of snowballing Mickey in the early game, and Eve has shown that Rek'Sai priority in the past. He will be happy to pick that up for sure.
QV as well. Of course, we talked about the fact that Rek'Sai is basically a flex pick and on the red side as well.
I really don't like that Maokai first, man.
Your frustration is palpable.
How's your frustration doing?
You know, I'm all right. I'm optimistic. I'm bouncing around hoping for an Echo lock-in. That's kind of where I'm at in terms of this draft.
You're a Samsung lover, though, Papa Smithy.
It's true. I'm a noted Samsung lover. I mean, that was mostly Samsung Blue that, you know, now is slumming it up in Shanghai, let's say. Not quite the same thing this season, but Samsung has shown flashes of the innovation that really drew me to Blue, and of course, launched all of White's success.
Yeah, and yes, White is definitely a product of the brain power behind Blue. I will be the first one to agree with you on that. And Sivir will be locked in alongside the Maokai, so good engage from Anarchy already. Nothing too surprising. Some very early Corki from Fury. They must have some sort of plan right here. Honestly, if they're picking Corki Rek'Sai in the same round of the draft, that to me says this is a top Rek'Sai and we're going to be 4-1 splitting.
There's a very big possibility, but had they finally shored up those unclear calls where they'll decisively choose to fight when perhaps split pushing would have been smart, it feels like they're understanding the map goes from being very smart, as we saw in the TF Bard game, to opting into fights that just don't seem necessary with their win condition. Maybe it's understanding of win conditions that Samsung have most been having trouble with.
Maybe it is third time's the charm with the top lane Rek'Sai.
We can dream.
I think they're going to go for Victor here. Victor Annie, so potentially bringing around some engage, and that is what they will select. Annie Corki in the lane together and saving their top lane pick for last, flexing that Rek'Sai as hard as they can.
And Annie has traditionally been seen as a good laning matchup against the Thresh. Definitely has the burst to deal with its relatively low base stats. I see you noticing something interesting, though.
I'm wondering if there's going to be a Nidalee last here. Actually, yeah, maybe. the Kassadin coming up against the Victor. But in terms of the jungle pick for Samsung, they could definitely have a very, very strong 4-1 split if they pick up that Nidalee, which we know is a specialty.
There's CC in the bot lane. There's, very situational CC in mid. I really like the Maokai Nidalee synergy just because, again, Twisted Advance into basically guaranteed max range spear can be a big factor. We're seeing Echo hovered again. My heart's fluttering a bit, but waiting to see if that's a reality.
No, I think it's going to be Kassadin Lee Sin, and that is what it will be locked in. So Mickey again showing some new champion play here, and Kuve just go for that Gnar, that old staple to follow up on the any engage. This will be a much more stable composition, that's for sure. Still a lot of AP though.
It's one of those traditional games where we see the Kassadin mid. They have the Sivir to pick up some of the wave clear chops. Of course, Maokai can be helpful as well. But can they actually get things done here, Samsung? They look like they need to be controlling objectives. They need to be getting an advantage because we've already seen Kassadin take over games against Victor. It was seen as a counter pick back when Victor was last enabled. It hasn't changed much, and they even have to back up wave clear to ensure they don't have any big compositional problems like CJ did yesterday against SKT.
And they have the Lee Sin early on, so it'll be a battle between Eve and Lyra to see who could put that pressure down on the map. Now, fortunately for Samsung, they at least have the Gnar Maokai matchup if we do have the 2v2 lanes for some additional harassment up in that top side. And Corki Annie. So Samsung, good engage, good secondary engage with the Gnar and the Rek'Sai, and then following up, they've got good poke too. I mean, both teams really have very well-rounded compositions right here.
I just love that Anarchy have kind of done the extra things. When you have that Kassadin mid, one of the big things to do was always to pick a high-pressure jungler. Rek'Sai gone, Gragas banned. They go for the Lee Sin, maybe even going to be the Warrior Lee Sin to try and relieve pressure from Mickey. And it feels like Mickey, and this is their big win condition, might be able to take over the game if he gets that quiet time to farm in the early game.
Well, I hope we see that Warrior Lee Sin, because if you're playing Lee Sin, don't be a pansy. Play the Warrior enchantment. Go full Lee Sin or go the hell home. That's what I say, Papa Smithy.
I 100% endorse your proclamation.
All right, let's get into game one.
Samsung Thresh is locked in for Snowflower here, so we got a little bit of flavor coming through from the skin choice. I like it.
I do like the skin manner play whenever possible.
Manners above all else.
He's respecting his opponents. That's what Snowflower is doing.
I think it's either intense respect or intense disrespect.
Either way. It's like, look who doesn't have Mata anymore. It's you, Samsung. It's you.
Look, I have a love for Luna, the Bard player in particular, and he's probably going to be not quite the same thing, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Both teams have strong early games. The only big outlier is this Kassadin, who needs some time to get going, but we've already seen that matchup can do good things for Kassadin, once the Rod of Ages power spike comes in.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what he's going to be able to do early on. Obviously, the mid lane should be a very big focus for both of these junglers, trying to get that punishment down, because whoever starts snowballing out of that mid lane is going to get out of control pretty quickly, actually. And Kassadin as well, there is all that magic damage from Samsung, so it's a pretty easy road to itemization for Anarchy here.
Lane swap been initiated by Anarchy. Sivir and Thresher in the top side, so the jungle follow will be happening for both teams. The 2v2 is pretty even, so I guess I'm surprised, but people do like to navigate Thresh away from Annie just because of the all-in trades at level 2 and 1.
It's also the Maokai versus the Gnar, I think, aspect coming into play here, where they're worried about Kuve just constantly harassing in the laning phase. Could be a little bit of an issue. Now, there is a ward at that red buff. Luna here.
It's already auto-attack, so they know he's here.
Oh!
5 health on the red buff.
Nicely played by Luna, though. That was very, very close. Good stun, just barely couldn't actually pick that up. He's not done harassing yet, though. Still patrolling the perimeter at this Raptor camp.
Banking the gold from the Spell Thieves as well. People jungling on the weak side has definitely been the trend that we've seen come through. Even starting the buff, still found time to get over there and contest the red buff, did the Annie.
Well, Samsung didn't expect the lane swap to be coming in here, so they were playing more reactively, still had arguably the more successful time, as Eve and Cuvée did not find themselves quite so harassed.
So the one thing that does happen here is that both supports are opened up to do some roaming. We've already mentioned Snowflower has an MVP on Thresh, and Annie probably has the most reliable roam because she has AoE CC at level 1, so could potentially see either pressure being relieved in, say, a inverted 2v2 situation, as it looks like Annie's going to be walking to the top, but eventual roaming likely to come in.
So right there, Samsung, really good timing. And last season, Samsung was pretty atrocious at lane swapping, but this time I think they really had it figured out because Annie knew the timing on the jungle camps, and because Samsung started the weak side, so they knew that Anarchy wasn't going to be going for their red buff. Luna and Cuvée were, ooh, nice flash.
Cuvée actually had to flash away after the slow from the Flay, I believe. Lee Sin's pathing to top, actually taking a much more direct route than Annie. There is the potential for a tower dive, but the window is very small.
It's going to be seen right there. They're going to land the Sonic Wave. There's the stun, flash Flay, and that's it.
Yeah, no flash available. They might even get a second kill. It's level 1 from the Annie. Will auto attacks be enough? Eve's there to especially the turret dive, which is going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Eve has to back away. Drew a teleport from Maokai as well, but overall a 2-for-1 trade for Anarchy.
Wow. So what I was going to say there is that Luna was actually in position to make it under that tower before the jungler and the top laner even had a chance to get into the top side, but Luna took a very circuitous route through his own jungle and so wasn't able to make it up there in time. Had Annie been in proper position under the turret, that would have been a very different story. Now they're going to try flash, twisted advance, Eve unburrows. Ixu may have just killed himself right there. Flash, Lyra going to get the kill. Luna's back, however.
Doesn't have stun up, though. The auto attacks are strong. Very nice bounce. Going to get at least 1 kill. Miniwave still alive means Ixu might make it away, and that slow probably cements that.
But Cuvée getting the kill right there is the big, big difference against this Maokai crown. And there's a flash and the cleanse to get rid of the ignite.
That cleanse flash did a lot of work in the result.
Yeah.
It made him look CC immune, basically.
Wow. So
5 kills in 5 minutes.
Snowflower already doing work. I don't understand why people don't ban this champion, Papa Smithy. It drives me crazy.
You mentioned he's basically been making this happen on Thresh exclusively.
Yes. He doesn't have this much presence on the map with any other champion. Snowflower is very good at Thresh.
Just an insane bloodthirsty game. It's a bit of a trend, a bit of a difference from the last particular series. Anarchy, it's going to be 2v2 action, and they're pushing up pretty aggressively as Eve is around to relieve pressure.
Yes, Eve coming through right here. Now Songyu not going to get knocked up due to the spell shield, but takes some decent damage, so relatively successful game. They know that Lyra's there as well.
And Fury still has both his summoners available because he's been having happy times quietly farming in bot as this massive amount of damage has been done in top.
Wow. It's been pretty quick-paced here so far. 5 kills in 6 minutes.
I guess we shouldn't be surprised when 2 high-pressure junglers, 2 very strong early presence supports as well been roaming around, but always heartening to see. I come over from the LPL where kill a minute is basically in the rulebook. You have to stay above that particular clip or the match is restarted, I believe. That might be the rule there, but definitely a lot more controlled mostly in Champions.
Is that how it's in the rulebook? Lace is just there enforcing
There's a picture of Keanu Reeves
the
and
entertainment.
Speed. Yeah, it's basically
fan.
Speed.
Oh man, that's really harsh. So you're saying that they like explode if they reach below a certain number of kills per minute? Are there? Wow, that's dark, Papa Smithy. They're just sitting there looking at the counters underneath their seats.
Well, I mean, they got a lot of wards down. They still fight. There must be some reason, right?
Interesting theory.
I'm full of them, Monty Cristo.
Oh boy.
There hasn't been a kill for 2 minutes. I kind of lost interest here, Monty. What's interesting you?
Snowflower actually getting stunned right there. Standing in the gravity field for that Chaos Storm was quite interesting. He He went for the Hail Mary hook while standing in the gravity field and got really punished for it.
He walked up to a level 6 Victor in a gravity field, and okay, Mickey's just getting a bit cute, of course. Has Riftwalk available, so should be able to get away. Not sure why he's being cute. I guess he really wants to get over the ridge, but Anarchy, bit of a brain explosion there.
Man, I love Snowflower. He's just got such balls to even try and make that play in the first place.
I mean, the notable thing...
Sees the gravity field, chooses to throw a hook, assuming that he's going to hit the Victor, misses the Victor and dies for it. I mean, it was like a 50-50. If he actually hit that hook, he may have been able to get the kill, but sure looked silly when he didn't. Oh, nice play, though.
Yeah, flayed out of the Valkyrie. Nice flash. Flash still available uniquely, but with the on the hunt pop, it's going to be a kill. Well, they donated over. They do. Let's return to Sungyu and Snowfire. You mentioned that they're a streaming duo, so maybe they're just flashy plays or go home, Monchgris. So that's probably what gets them the stream viewers.
Well, right. Wow, Snowflower just walking in alone right there, but no punishment, no AD carry to do much of anything in that situation. And, you know, that was a face check of a brush there by Fury on the bottom side, and he found the Lee Sin. He found the Sivir, or actually just the Thresh in there. Sivir was in lane and paid for it.
But the result of the vertical lane swaps has meant that the mid lane has been isolated, and that isolated mid lane matchup, just a small advantage for Cassin. Advantage Cassin, however big, is always a big thing. We normally expect a 10 to 15 CS disadvantage, but advantage Cassin really serves Anarchy well. All this pressure around the map has opened up time for Cassin to basically get an unanswered, maybe 11-minute Rod of Ages, given his current item timings.
And one thing we can say about...
He didn't get the blue.
One thing we can say about Anarchy is when they get those early leads, they use those leads to invest in vision. And actually, what we saw against SK Telecom was surprisingly good shot calling in the late game. So Anarchy has typically struggled with getting an advantage early, but when they've had it, they tend to convert that lead actually pretty well.
Yeah, they play well when they're winning. I think, as you mentioned, they're strategically sound when they're winning. It's just getting back into games that has almost completely eluded them at this part in their relatively young tenure.
Yeah, but I'm just impressed that they actually can close games as well as they can, even against top teams. That's a trait that I wouldn't necessarily give to Samsung. I think Samsung is more versatile in their picks and their team compositions, but not quite so tight in terms of that vision or in terms of playing out snowballs to win a game.
Yeah, IM and Samsung, you could very realistically level that same criticism again. So it's curious that a team like Anarchy, a very new org, can get their handle on what seems to be the thing that eludes even teams with big support staffs.
The big difference is that we have had some pretty nice professional experience for players like Lyra and Mickey, even a little bit for Ixu, so only the bottom lane really new this season.
Rek'Sai Tremor spots out Kassadin, but Kassadin is pretty tanky. It's not really the burst damage unless he just sits on a gravity field, but Snowfire has already shown that there's always that possibility.
Luna's sitting here waiting to flash. There we go. He's going to flash in right now. There's the W, and Mickey is just going to get chain CC'd to death.
Uses his flash peculiarly. It was never going to be able to get away with the cooldown on the Riftwalk, still above 5 seconds, so falls with his flash down. That was awkward.
Camp Mickey is in full effect, Papa Smithy.
Camp for or camp against, that seems to be the mini game that every single Anarchy game takes forth.
And they're going to try and Camp Fury. I mean, it's Camp Fury and Camp Mickey this game. It's pretty amusing. Lyra certainly has been in that bottom side quite a few times already.
I guess then, let's assume that's the plan for both. Let's assume there was the clear call, Camp Mickey, Camp Fury. Won't it be interesting to see which of those players, those respected threats, actually can come back and make something out of what has traditionally been their old win condition being abandoned, and see who else either steps up or which player can make the most out of the scraps they've been given.
Well, to be fair, Mickey has much more potential for carrying on a Kassadin than Fury probably does on a Corki.
That's fair.
But we'll see. See how it all shakes out in the end. We are just about even here as everyone starts to take a look at this next dragon. Luna and Eve once again in the brush of death.
This time Snowfire there to relieve pressure.
Now Kuve doing a lot of work in the top side, actually using his ults in that Meganar form, bullies Ixu out of lane. It's going to be an opportunity though, considering the TP is up for Maokai, Lyra coming up. He's got the Warrior in chat. He may have the damage. Flash twisted advance. Kuve going to get kicked and knocked around. Hex Drinker doesn't save him as Lyra just combos him to death, but that will open up a dragon for Samsung.
Look, he probably needed to be top to relieve pressure. Interestingly, Ixu actually had a CS advantage, so the Gnar hasn't necessarily been able to run through the lane. Is going to build tanks, so isn't necessarily going to be a Black Cleaver or a Frozen Mallet coming out this game, at least as indicated at 13 minutes. They're going to push up top. They have the option to take the turret, or they can just leave the lane to reset. Looks like they're happy to leave and extend the laning phase.
Lyra, 2-1-3 in this game, 100% kill contribution so far. He's been that major force that he needed to be on the map to get ahead with this Lee Sin. He's been playing aggressively. He's been playing it well. Smite will just take that away. So Eve ends up with the enemy red buff. Samsung responding. A couple objectives in retribution for the kill onto Kuve.
And Lyra's Gragas mechanics, and in general his mechanics have been a highlight, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised that Lee Sin is a natural extension of his ability on the champion. We've seen in the LPL, Spawn actually calls Gragas the world's best Lee Sin in terms of just having a similar kit in terms of early damage and control, but maybe scales better with the Cinderhawk, obviously, but Lee Sin, with the Warrior already complete, is still very powerful.
Coming back for another gank. Kuve had flash, but doesn't have to burn it at that juncture. Instead, he's going to fall back to his turret, but it is preventing Kuve from heavily harassing Ixu right here. Crown and Mickey going mano-a-mano in the mid lane.
All the invades, I'll say the point, I'll say it again. The mid lane has been isolated, and Kassadin has been handedly winning the 1v1 matchup against Victor, which bodes badly for everyone, because Kassadin does have that take over the game potential that we've seen many a time.
He's going to pop out and clear a pink ward, so lots of wards going down again in the bottom side. We see pretty good vision from both teams right here. Multiple pink wards out on the map so far. Sangyeon going for that early Avarice Blade, so not too concerned with getting rolling early on. Ixu already with the Righteous Glory just for some quality engages, while Kuve building for lane, really, more than anything else.
And to win lane, building for team fights is significant for Ixu. He hasn't been felt pressured enough to go the quite common build that's emerged, which of course is the Catalyst into the Glacial Shroud, maybe even throwing in a Spectre's Cowl, depending on how you're doing. Has been able to finish a team fight item against an opponent building for lane. So that's a big boon for Anarchy if they're looking to fight for the second dragon, which should be spawning in a few minutes' time.
I don't know if they're ready for that yet. Still with the Rod of Ages coming up, trying to stack that item. It's still very early on for that particular pick, and I am very curious what he is going to be building with this Blasting Wand and the Amp Tome.
Let's think about options. That's not as Snowfire gets caught. Burst down. Tibbers comes in. He's very low. Ignite should be enough, although with the
Safeguard.
With the Safeguard lives on probably 40 health.
Yeah, very low. I mean, there are only so many options. It's either a Rylai's or a Void Staff, either of which is sort of weird.
I guess maybe sees the Magic Resist stacking on Abyssal Scepter, and you can see Magic Resist stacking on Cuve, so I don't know about rushing a Void second. Fake has been one to build early Void stuffs, but this is really peculiar.
I'd say build an Abyssal, honestly, if you need a little bit more magic penetration early.
And look, maybe we're being too reductive. Maybe we're just talking about Abyssal and a Morellonomicon coming slowly. Of course, doesn't need to necessarily build an item that builds out of both those AP options. Maybe just looking for as much wave clear as possible early, because of course, flat AP, maxing the Force Pulse first, should be good, smart wave clear.
I'm a little bit worried about that. I think it's actually a Void Staff, and that makes me nervous, Papa Smithy.
Okay.
That makes me a bit nervous. I'm not sure how that build is actually going to be too functional.
So if you see a Fiendish Codex and an Abyssal, you'll be happy?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, happier.
Trades really starting to stick for Mickey. They're very one-sided. Once again, opts into standing on the gravity field. Not interested in the CC effects there whatsoever. Maybe it's because there's so much cavalry around Lyra and Snowflower.
He was trying to bait Crown into an all-in, and there we go. Lyra's going to come through, forces that flash out, but Lyra pays for it. Eve with the follow-up. Kuve going to TP in at the same time. Not really much they can take right here, besides maybe a top lane turret with that Corki, but their bottom is currently undefended. That's going to be Songyun backing off, but a really deep dive there, turned around by a flash from Crown.
The spider senses were obviously tingling to have all those defensive options channeling straight away. And yeah, as you mentioned, the difference between Lyra having flash and not was about 20 seconds. Still went for the engage, got cute, hoped he was in the shop. We already saw Bengi fall into that trap, but not today from Crown.
Not today, indeed. And no more turrets, though. Still a minute until Dragon, so not really a high-risk play there from Lyra. Can't blame him for trying it, really. He's going for Hex Drinker. Holy cow, aggressive Lee Sin build.
And this was the cornerstones of a standard Lee Sin build in previous metas. It was the Hex Drinker, Warrior Enchant, or whatever the equivalent was at that time. And the Sidestone is the sort of thing that your former jungler over on CLG would be building on the Lee Sin. It's definitely fallen out of the meta. We don't see that as much from either Dexter or any of those junglers, but was just a lot of early dueling, and that's what Anarchy are trying to do. Early power spikes to complement their Cassidy.
It looks like the on the hunt blown very early from Songyun. One less weapon for Anarchy when it comes to contesting this Dragon right now. It's going to be a big problem not to have the Sivir ult available. As this comes up, Samsung looking for Dragon number 2. They have the wards down. They're going to start it off.
Your worst fears are confirmed. Void Staff is already complete from Mickey. Any words, Monty?
No, I just think it's really not very good this early on in the game. Kuve about to go Mega Gnar. The timing couldn't be better. And there's a flash right onto Ixu. Maybe not wanting to go for that Maokai. Luna gets kicked out. Kuve starts getting focused right in the front lines. He's going to go down in Mega Gnar form. Eve trying to follow up Fury with a lot of rockets. The Crown, he'll be focused as well. They just collapse on him. And honestly, that was Luna just jumping the gun there on the invade.
Yeah, he jumped the gun on the engage. In fact, Mickey was not grouped the whole fight. Finally showed up for the 5v5 after losing the objective. Strange to see the all-in onto Maokai of all people. Very, very squishy as the Annie will die incidentally in the front line. Then both Eve and Fury try and kill Lyra, who's very, very low. But they're splitting their threats. They're not fighting with the Victor, and Victor's not maneuverable. He doesn't have Fury boots. He doesn't necessarily have any mobility to deal with the mobile assassins coming through from Anarchy. Just a weird team fight from Samsung.
Also, Fury not even grouped up with the team there either, making it doubly hard as Fury flashes out of Mickey's engage.
Yeah, the buy timing from Mickey was poor if they were actually looking to commit for Dragon, but they gave it up. They didn't get poked out and then just kind of fell into the lap of a newly shopped Void Staff Kassadin who could just deal with the team fight that ensued.
Wow. Well, really questionable engage from Luna right there. Praised him earlier for his Bard engages, but his Annie hasn't really lived up to that expectation. They still got the Dragon, though, in the end. Even if they did fall behind a little bit in terms of that total gold.
Tell from some of the item builds that these Anarchy players have differing identities in team fights. We look at Lyra building purely magic resist. We see Ixu building purely armor. If they can trap up the threats they're looking for, there could actually be some interesting interactions despite two frontliners building very, very differently.
Well, I don't think you need as much armor as Ixu has in this game, frankly.
A Frozen Heart gives him some offensive capabilities, of course. More CC, has good base values, but it's strange to see both frontliners going very opposing tank builds.
Yeah, very, very odd with this Corki that Maokai would be this concerned with getting armor, especially when it's Frozen Heart and Ninja Tabby here. You have to think that there's going to be a more efficient build for Ixu to use.
I mean, it makes him immune to damage from, let's say, Gnar, for example, but he was already doing fine, not even building for lane, building a Righteous Glory, so it's one of those situations where sometimes you see teams stack armor and then just dive the magic damage, but for that to be the differing builds from both dive threats, that's what caught my eye.
Crown going for that Faker style Lichbane Victor build. Third core item for him, and that's great against this Kassadin.
Does Faker go for no Morellonomicon, though? No CDR? Because the no CDR is the big surprise to me. Of course, regular wave clear with the death ray is very possible the moment that you get the E-Augment, but if you don't have any CDR, Waveka can be more difficult. He's the only real reliable Waveka. Are we seeing turret trades here? It seems like we are.
You should not trade two Sheen, make these two Sheen trades, and they're going to not even make the TP in the end.
TP doesn't go through, so TP's down as well. The defensive teleport will work, although it's cancelled.
This game has gotten really awkward.
Odd.
I'm actually surprised that Samsung was willing to back off right there. Seems to me they could have kept going until someone actually stopped them. Going to use the Rek'Sai Void Rush, so they will trade and get a tier 2 for their troubles.
It's very defensive to take the inner turret, then back away completely and shop and then come back up. They didn't even go for an aggressive retreat, a purely defensive one, which opens up Anarchy to move as 5 and monopolize vision wherever they choose to prioritize.
Yeah, they could have gone through the topside jungle of Anarchy and really tried to make a play, cut them off, doing something right there. Use the fact that they were a little bit in this power spike. Again, two Sheens, they could have easily won a base race in that case as well.
WTF 2 Sheens.
Yeah, WTF 2 Sheens indeed, not pushing that advantage particularly well. Well, they've got another dragon coming up, though. They're going to be in a good place to contest it. That Lichbane nearly done as well. We'll see if Crown shops and gets it. He will right now.
It's a lot of power in the first burst, but not quite the cooldowns to necessarily get lots of little Sheen trades in. The Death Ray has, I believe, about a 9-second flat cooldown. The Q gets lower, but Lichbane has a 1.5-second internal cooldown. He just doesn't have the ability to proc that unless he spaces out his CC, but I just don't see that being possible.
Yeah. Well,
initial burst, though, and the damage to structures cannot be denied.
I'm curious to see what he builds next to deal with that. Does have quite a few options. So Kuve doesn't have TP, neither does Ixu after that very awkward pseudo base race that we had earlier. But the wave is pressured so far forward for Samsung that Kuve has a ton of freedom to move to the enemy jungle, maybe get a flank right here, push them in from behind.
It's honestly a pretty similar story for Anarchy in their bot lane. Basically, equal positions for the minion waves across the map for both teams. To open up Kassadin to roam, with teleports not being up, no one better to send the sideways than the Kassadin to both pick up farm and pressure whoever is sent to deal with it.
Yeah, Fury has to back off as well from the Kassadin, so they're not able to get that same amount of pressure, really. So, will Kuve just recall right now, head out? Or is he just going to walk directly over there? Doesn't want to get any more purchases. Getting close to a Rando and Zoman. The
difference with the two teams, the Anarchy were fighting around the dragon as they pushed up. QV doesn't have teleport yet. They're going to have to give away this dragon. That's just the reality of where they were putting their resources. Samsung's resources gave them Baron control, but Baron not a realistic objective at 25 minutes. Anarchy pushing up in their bottom lane gave them this dragon to easily just back away from and pick up their first one, which of course the stats very relevant at 25 minutes.
Yep, absolutely. And we talked about Anarchy's superior shot calling. They came out on top right there, bouncing back from that weird push that they made in the mid lane.
Both teams obviously recognizing this is a very even game. It's reflected in the gold, the turrets, everything. Very, very even. Snowfire comes for one of his traditional roams, but nothing to be got in this situation. I feel like extending the game only opens things up for Anarchy and specifically Mickey, so I'm looking for Samsung to make a decisive call. They've been known to do that. Whether they're right or not has definitely been not even open to debate. It's often been more wrong than correct, but they cannot just let Anarchy find farm on their carries and opt into a late game against the Kassadin.
Well, still, this is really up to Mickey to carry because obviously with that tanky top, not going to be outputting as much damage. Lyra's going to fall behind the further this game goes on and the tankier everyone else gets. That lack of CC and presence comparatively to the Rek'Sai. So Mickey, he's got the Sivir buff. He has to do work on this Kassadin. They're actually just going to start a Baron right now. They blacked out the vision, and look at that. Luna's recall, he's going to be free.
Yep, Luna's recall, and they have nobody even close. Rek'Sai tunnels in, but it's only tunneling into the Wraiths. Right now, he's going to have the Tremor Sense to see some action around Baron, but he's going to be surprised to find that it's already gone.
It is already gone. Eve very quickly focused. Snowflower coming up with the hook, and now they are on the run towards the opponents. They did pop the Righteous Glory, they did pop the Sivir, but they couldn't find any other kills.
And Anarchy playing around their vision, having the vision in the right areas, having vision around the dragon as they pushed up in the bottom lane. Now, basically rotating that, Victor in the bottom lane just pushing, knew they had the ward supremacy around Baron and took it down.
And now here come the towers falling immediately afterwards. They transition well into this side wave, pushing in the top lane to take it to tier 2. That'll be tower number 5.
Cuve's
4, rather.
Cuve in the bot lane's racing. He's racing against a Sivered up Baron comp.
Well, that is not really where you want to be if you're Cuve right now.
I could have said Baron up Sivir comp, but I went the other way for some reason.
Sivered up Baron. I wish I had a Baron comp.
Did you? Do you?
Yeah, it'd be really powerful. I mean,
Sure.
I wouldn't spawn until 20 minutes, but I'm pretty sure with a Baron comp, I could totally take the game at 20 minutes.
Is that the one time when you'd be happy for Riot to increase the timer on the turret reinforcements to about 20 minutes, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. The no rush till 20 Baron composition. You just stay in your base until 20 minutes, building your Baron.
That sounds like my history with StarCraft.
Were you one of those guys? Just
Oh, yes. I was super bad.
Sitting in your base, building battle cruisers.
But they do so much damage.
But Yamato cannons.
No rush 20, please.
Were you a Terran player?
No, I liked Protoss.
Oh, okay. So you were just building carriers then. I see how it is.
That was the fun.
I can't believe you. No rush till 20. Turtle with your photon cannons and your carriers.
You know I was leaning into a joke here, Monty, so perhaps I was just extending the metaphor. Mickey's got the Zhonya's that he was looking to get, and suddenly Merc treads. He's got a full build, no CDR, so maybe not the same level of backline threat, but man, Samsung were in a really close spot, and now it doesn't feel close at all.
Well, they still have a lot of power, but it is going to be hard, especially that locket done now. The Corki and the Victor, and no other real substantial sources of damage. And this push, very hard. They're actually just going to pile on through. They find Crown, who's standing right in the back. He's going to keep kiting out, but it's not going to be enough. Songyun going to pick up the first kill onto Luna, and Samsung desperately trying to defend Ixu, just taking the turret right now, and that is going to be a couple of kills in favor of Anarchy. Mickey with a kill himself. More hooks flying out from Snowflower. And man, you just got to take this guy's Thresh away.
And you just got to have to respect the fact that Anarchy are the one team to really make those decisive engages. They're happy to tear it up, but they feel powerful. Cuve turns into Mega Gnar. Double Gnar ultimate's significant. Remember, in the backline, Corki and Crown are free hitting. But with Lee Sin with the kick, it won't matter.
Oh, wow. Lyra going back in again. That flash will be his doom, but pretty fancy footwork on that Lee Sin right there, flying from one target to the next.
And if you just delay everything, it's 3 kills for the inhibitors. They do break the base from the dive. It's a very successful dive. It's the assertive play that eludes a lot of teams. But again, Anarchy seems to do with ease.
Yeah, they do. Well, backing off right now. Samsung really in trouble at this stage. Unlikely to come back in this one. Eve actually just trying to delay. They want to make sure that perhaps they can get that inhibitor turret with the wave in the top side. Not sure they're going to be so lucky, but what they're doing certainly isn't hurting, and they're also opening up a possibility for a dragon right now.
Only a 3rd dragon is not a big boon. Only Snowflower available to clear these minions. They won't take out the turret, but do a lot of chip damage. It does have some healing, though, so we'll start to get healthier unless Samsung can engineer a split push to try and push down the last bit. They're in excellent position to pick up their 3rd dragon, but Lyra's over-leveled to Eve, and multiple people are coming in to try and stop it.
Yeah, they are. So Lyra wants to hit this Sonic Wave, does get it onto Eve. Eve taking a fairly good bit of damage, and they are just going to back off. Eve secures number 3.
Yeah, if it was number 4 or 5, definitely there was the option to go for the steal with the safeguard, but thought better of it. It's only a 3rd dragon. The rotational power is probably not going to be a big deal. They have Sivir when they're looking to make that decisive engage or flank. So, look, it's never ideal to give away a 3rd dragon, but in this situation, they're so far ahead. They're opting into a fight or just losing a member. That could have been the start of a swing for Samsung.
Yeah, you really don't want to give people up right now when the game is on the line, when you can push forward and start to close this gold gap that has developed. Samsung On the ropes now, though, this Kassadin, very, very scary.
Nah has to be dealing with the minion wave and bot. Can he control his rage? Look, he's already going to hit Mega Nah. So, of course, you have the 15-second window when he's tired, and, of course, just the timer when he's in Mega Nah. So it's about 30 seconds before you can start building rage again. The moment that you turn into Mega Nah, that's something that Anarchy can work around. Not sure if they're actually cognizant of that, but they certainly are pushing aggressively into top.
Well, there's that 30-second timer. Going to start now for that rage bar. Still cleared out pretty easily, though, by the Death Ray and the Rockets. That is a factor for Anarchy, as they have so many melee champions that getting in range. The siege can be problematic. Eve with the hook, though, finds a face full of damage right in front of that tower. Songyun takes a little bit of poke, blocks some of it with his spell shield.
Cuvée finally starting to build up the Nah bar again. It's about half, so should be flexible to have that available if we do see another dive, which Anarchy has already shown that they're more than comfortable to do. As long as Maokai is the one tanking the aggro, they can dive for days, and Lyra, awkwardly even as Lee Sin pushing, but there's the ultimate.
Yeah, they're going to try and dive this. Mickey finds Luna immediately, and there is Ixu right into the mix. Mickey with the Zhonya's Hourglass in the middle of the composition. Cuvée in the back line, but he gets focused down. Mickey dies, however, to Eve, so both players in the mix, and there is Evie still going in. Crown is very high HP, landing a lot of those Qs, so Mickey just gets destroyed after that Zhonya's Hourglass. Anarchy still pushing forward, though.
They still have super minions pushing the bot that need to be dealt with, even as melee champions or short-range champions. They have threat. The inhibitor's down to about 300 health, but it looks like finally Samsung Galaxy might have been able to chase them away.
Wow, holding right there. Mickey and Ixu moving too forward on that engage for anyone to follow up. They're still going to go for a man-down Baron. Of course, Kassadin not really going to add too much damage to the Baron in the first place.
They just had no option, Samsung Galaxy, to get Vision anywhere near this area. They're starting to push up Vision, but it's not even at their Raptors yet. Rek'Sai tunnels in, Baron's at 2,000 health. There is actually a steal option here, but doesn't know, doesn't recognize it right to the last minute. And second Baron on spawn by Anarchy.
It wasn't really a steal because Eve had to use tunnel to get in range of the pit.
Doesn't have flash either.
Doesn't have flash. Wouldn't have that tunnel cooldown up so quickly, unfortunately for Eve. Chose to use the tunnel to get there a little bit earlier to see if he could find that timing, but it was just too far down already.
And the second Baron might be enough to just take this game for Anarchy, who've honestly played it pretty much textbook.
Yeah, can't fault Anarchy what they've done here. They've gotten things their way this entire game so far. Snowflower has been that big threat on the map, and Mickey has really delivered on this Kassadin, just slowly scaling into the late game.
Doesn't seem to be any big item timings or factors that can cause Samsung guys to get back into the game. We haven't seen the big Annie ult into Gnar ult, for example, the big Wombo combo. If they can take out either Songyun or Mickey, it's definitely a two-threat comp. Maybe that's the hope, but Anarchy are not leaving anything to chance. They're recklessly diving onto priority targets and ensuring there's no setup for the big engage from Samsung.
And he dropped right there. It's going to miss everyone. Lyra has to flash out of the engage, however, and now they're coming back in. Cuvé's here. His Gnar bar is nearly full, but he can't get enraged before that bar goes down. Songyun just solos out Luna on the side. Luna not having a good game tonight. A lot of missed anti-stuns, a lot of missed ults, and then poor positioning leads to his death.
And now it's time for the base to be completely eradicated. The tutorial approach being taken by Anarchy, and why not? They're waiting for minions to push into the bottom side. An inhibitor turret, there's nothing they can do. They have to respect both Mickey and Songyun. And this should be the decisive final push.
Should be indeed. Mickey gets that void. Okay, here we go. Eve just going to try and get onto Ixu right here. Ixu tanking a turret. He's taking a lot of damage. Cuvée still throwing boomerangs in. Snowflower is actually going to die to Cuvée. They still have a lot of turret aggro. I don't know if Anarchy is actually going to have the HP to see this game out. Songyun nearly dying. Mickey in the back does pop the Zhonya's, but there's nothing else there for him. He's going to get focused down and killed. They tanked way too many turret shots over the course of that fight.
Yeah, after their clean turret diving, that one was definitely a pair of turrets too far, such as the Nexus turret's power. They pick up one of the Nexus turrets and back away, so still no real window back into the game from Samsung Galaxy, but given their first 37 minutes, that was sloppy from Anarchy.
Yeah, they definitely could have played that much more patiently with Songyu and Sivir not trying to dive behind the tier 2 turrets and cut them off. Anarchy trying to get a little bit fancy right there, pad their KDAs as they win the game, but instead it is reversed on them. 3 inhibitors down, still extraordinarily unlikely that Samsung is going to be able to come back, but they could get 4 dragons.
And Katie Rolster versus IM looms large in our memories that it is conceivable for them to come back, just unlikely.
Very, very unlikely. They're still taking every shot they have, though. Kuve in the base, Kuve with teleport, and his Narbar is full. He is Meganar right now. Will he actually TP in? Lyra gets focused early, even Lyra low, and there's Kuve with a Gnar onto Songyu in the back. Songyu's getting stunned and actually just chained. Corki, Fury cleaning up. Holy cow, but Mickey is there. Mickey is still with the damage, and Ixu, oh man, Fury so close. Kuve, there's no one to stop the super minions, so an apocalyptic final battle that Anarchy goes even in, gets the double kill, but that's going to be it.
The minions do the dirty work, Monte Cristo. Take out the game. You cannot opt into a fight with 3 inhibitors down. Samsung tried it. Look, the fight actually went pretty well, but the result was not in doubt.
Yeah, Fury doing a lot of work in spite of how hard of a time he had earlier in this game. Anarchy will take game 1. Just pretty smooth sailing, honestly, against Samsung, and a lot of that was powered up by Lyra's very good early game jungling.
And if you're going to make a rookie mistake, which what it was when they dived into the double turrets, look, at least you have 3 inhibitors down and plenty of other options to finish the game. So a bit sloppy, but as you mentioned, Anarchy, they played around their points of control, i.e. fighting around the dragon and cutting back to it when they were split pushing in bottom, and then just taking the Baron when it was up for offer. Other teams might have not been so decisive around the Baron, which is what really tipped this game over the edge.